Thank you very much. My name is Damilola Ali, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm a front-end engineer at Evolve Credit. I love coding. Coding is fun for me, except when it's back-end. Yeah. So I love front-end, but then like repulsive to backend. So thank you for joining me today. This is the workshop outline. This is how it's going to go. So I'm just going to like give a brief explanation on what is React and why we use React, why we use Firebase with React, and then we'll start the workshop, which is installing our React app and setting up our Firebase account. Then we'll create the login and sign up page. Then we'll just test our apps, and then I will talk about some additional features that you can add to it by yourself after the webinar. Then we'll conclude and close. So I think that's literally just, these are the things we'll cover, like I said before. So yeah, let's start. I hope my internet doesn't break from now on, hopefully. Okay, so what is React? Okay, so what is React? I don't know. Many of you would have heard of React before. React is a JavaScript library created by Facebook. So many people always like say React is a framework, but React is actually not a framework. It's a library on its own. It's a JavaScript library that was built by Facebook to build their UI components instead of them, using other components like Bootstrap or Material UI. So React is a JavaScript library. So React is like, okay, writing JavaScript, but then you're using JavaScript to build your UI component. So if I was to like summarize it, I would say React is like a combination of using HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript, like to write your code. So to like build a UI component. And then one thing about React is that it's a tool for building components. So every page you want to display, or every I'm used to the word component, so I want to say every component you want to create, but like each page you want to display in your web page, it's like a component. So you create a component and then you render that React renders that component. And if you update something in the component, React helps you to automatically re-render the component like that. So React is a user interface library and is a tool for building UI components. And one other thing is that in React, we use JSX. So JSX is also JavaScript, but then it's like writing JavaScript with HTML joined together. It's like a template, a JavaScript template. So that's what we use in React. So as time goes on, like as we start coding, I'm going to like show you how we use JSX and all. So next is why we use React. So there are many reasons why React is used. Okay, so easy creation of dynamic applications. So when you want to create like dynamic applications, like applications that you can automatically update, applications you can change automatically. I hope you guys can still hear me. If you can hear me, please can you like unmute your mic and then like say you can hear me so that, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so easy creation of dynamic applications. So you can create dynamic applications with React. Like, for example, okay, so let me see if I can give an example here. Okay, so I'm just going to like give an example here. Okay, for example, now this is like a basic, I hope you can see my screen. This is like a React app, a very, very basic React code. So now, like, you can edit this code and it will automatically, React will automatically re-render your page for you. And also, you can like do so many things with React. For example, I can say, okay, let's say constant users is equal to, like, I'm just giving an example, maybe Dami, then Catherine, like this. So now, if I want to render Catherine somewhere here, all I have to do is just like say, like map through this, just like our normal JavaScript here. You use a map and say users dot map through each user, then we're given, and then say maybe render the first user to the first user here. So if I want, like, this is how we can create it. So it's dynamic. I can decide to maybe render the second user, same thing by the side, and I can do the same thing like this. So you can create like so many dynamic things like with React. And then the second one is like improved performance. Because like React is, I would say sometimes React is like a one-page application. They call, and I don't know if you guys have heard of like stage application. So because of this, like React automatically renders everything you update in your app and all. And so performance, like it improves the performance of, like, you don't have to go and then, refresh and all of that. Yeah, sometimes you might have to like refresh manually, but React automatically saves this. Like, how cache works. So it saves like whatever you've done in the like before. And then when it's re-rendering, it just re-renders the new thing you added. It does not render the whole page all over again. So if I have an home page and I just want to change the name, instead of React to render like from the beginning to the end of that page, it just re-renders for that particular name. So because of that, it's faster, and then there's improved performance. Then in React also, we use reusable components. So how, like in React, to create a folder called components, where you can like create reusable components like buttons, like forms, and all of that. So instead of like rewriting and writing like the same thing again, which will be redundant, you can create reusable components. Then it's easy to debug. They are dedicated tools for easy debugging. I know you would have like used HTML and CSS before. You will notice that it's not easy to debug just using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, because you have to go through line by line and all. But React is easy. Like React like automatically just tells you where you go wrong. It points out the line for you. And then we also have other React tools which you can use for debugging, which at the end I can share with you. Then unidirectional data flow. So it flows from top to bottom. There's like, it's almost the same thing as the improved performance, where I said like it's re-renders, but it just re-renders exactly what you change. So, and you also I hope you also heard when I said it's like a single page application. So the data flows in one direction. Like, it's not, if I create 5 pages in React, it can also be equivalent to like a page. Do you get? So it's not like there's data everywhere and all of that. All the data is just like in one place, and the data flows in that particular place. And then small learning curve. Why I included small learning curve is because if you have an idea of JavaScript, then using React is actually not hard. You would have to maybe learn one or two things, but your knowledge of JavaScript like makes it very easy for you to use React. I've tried using like Vue.js, and it wasn't as simple as using a React. Using React for me. So building a React app for me was easier than like building a Vue.js app. And then it can be used for development of both web and mobile apps. Yes, you can use React to develop both web and mobile apps too. So with that, I think being able to explain why we use React and why React is like a great option when it comes to front end. And then why am I using React with Firebase? So Firebase is like a backend as a service that is developed by Google for creating web and mobile application. So Firebase, I don't know if you've all heard of Firebase, but we should have all heard. It's created by Google or developed by Google. And then it has so many tools and services that can help you develop quality apps. Firebase is really, really easy to use and really easy to get started with actually. So it provides authentication, database, storage, and all sorts of things that we can just use. So most times if I want to like build a personal project, which I need a backend, and I'm not someone that is really good at backend like that. So Firebase is like an alternative for me to use. And like I said, the third point, it's easy to use. So, okay, so let's start like building now. So I don't know if you are ready to build, like you can just write in the chat like you're ready. Okay, are we ready to like build? I hope you have your laptops ready, or I don't know, anything that you want to use. Okay, no one. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All good.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you're ready to build, since you said the code along is what you want. So I feel like we should all be on the same page here. So if you are ready, like please tell me in the chat that you're ready. Ready. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to start from Firebase. So I'm going to go step by step. Again. So, okay. Let me log out and start again. How do I log out from here? I don't know, actually. Okay, so if you go to, okay, let me start from here. So you need to have a Google account. I'm sure we all have a Google account. So if you go to like Firebase, okay, Firebase. Let me start from this direction. So you have firebase.google.com. If you go to firebase.google.com, this is what you get. So then you click on Get Started to start your application. So because I'm logged in to my Google account, it automatically takes me to this page, and I already have projects like that I've like done on Firebase. So it takes me to this page. And please, if for any reason like you are not following or you are lost, please just include in the chat so that I can like go back or anything like that. Thank you. So the first thing is to like add a project. So I'm going to name the project. Let's just give it a random name. Let me just say, okay, app. Okay, so I'm going to give it a React app, and then I click on continue. So this Google Analytics for your Firebase project is not compulsory, but it is recommended. So if you want Google Analytics for your project, then you can enable it or you can disable it. It doesn't matter actually. So continue. Then you have to select an account. So definitely if you have a Google account, it automatically just like gives you one account, or you can also create a new account if you don't want to use that particular Google account. So then after you select that, we can create projects. So you create your project. So yeah, wait. Okay. Finishing up. Okay, almost there. Yeah, and our project is ready. So we click on continue, and then it takes us to the console, to Firebase console immediately. So when you get here, you see a lot of things. We have authentication, we have Firestore database, we have real-time database, we have storage, hosting, function, machine learning. Like Firebase provides a lot of services. There are some that you might have to upgrade, maybe pay for it for some of the services, but the basic services like authentication and database or even storage, most times you don't have to pay for them. So if you want to maybe host a project, maybe a test project that you're working on, or any projects, maybe an interview project, you can just use Firebase as your backend. Okay, so if you notice here, it says to add an app to get started. So you can use Firebase for mobile development. You can also use it for web development. And then you can also use it in Unity, which is for gaming. So you can use Firebase in all these apps. Web. So we're going to, so when we click on this, we'll give it a name. Maybe I'm just going to give it the same name I gave the name of my. So if you want to set up Firebase hosting for this app, you can click here, or you can also set it up later. It's also free. So app. Okay, I just run. Okay, so now that I've registered my app, you see we are given instructions to install Firebase. So you can use npm, or you can also use a script tag. But since we are using React, our advice we use npm for it, because npm will be easier to build. If you want to use a script tag for React, then you have to go to the public file, public folder, and then go to the HTML and all of that to add it. But if you use npm, you can just install it from your command line. Okay. After this, you can copy this here, because we are going to be needing this to initialize our Firebase, or we can just continue to the console. And if you are looking for it again, all you have to do is go to your projects here, go to project settings, and in project settings, under project settings, you find it here. So it's always available here anytime you need it. So you can always go back, and this is where you can always come back to link it to a Firebase hosting if you want. Okay. Okay, so I just saw your question. Does Firebase host your React app? For now, we are not going to use Firebase hosting, but if you want Firebase to host your React app, you can. Firebase is not only for hosting. You can use Firebase for hosting, you can use it for authentication, you can use it for database. For this application, we are only using the authentication, like Firebase authentication. Like, do you understand? Okay, do you understand? Should be Astana. Do you understand? Like, you can use Firebase for hosting. Okay, you can also use it for continuous deployment if you want. All you have to do is come here and then link this hosting site. Then you can use it. But for now, we are only going to use the authentication part. So that's what we are going to do for this application. So if you maybe later you need help for Firebase hosting, you can ask me like later. But for my hosting and continuous deployment, most times I use Netlify. So I'm just going to write it in the chat, Netlify. And I also make use of Vessel. So those are the two hostings I use when I want to, like for continuous deployment, since I majorly do Frontend. Okay, so now that we've set up our Firebase, okay, before we set up the authentication, I want us to like initiate like our create React app, because it actually takes a long time to actually do that. So I'm just going to skip to that particular slide where I want us to install all the things we need to install. So that while we are setting up the authentication and all, we can the apps can be installing. So to create a React app, React provides npx. It's the same as npm, but it just gives more, like, instead of a blank file, which we are given when we use npm to install, or we use npx. So I've provided like the link to React website, and you can also check for it. Just React website to find it. So to install or to create a new React app, we use npx create React app, then your app name. So since my app name, I named it React app, then I can like maybe React. So I already like installed my own, like created my own application, because I was actually worried about internet in case it was not going to work. So to create a React app, you can just run this in your command line. You have to like run it, like there's no manual way to like create a React app. There is actually, but then you have to like install everything one by one. So for example, this is when you like run this in your command line, automatically you are given all this, like you're provided with all this, all the node modules, all the basic node modules you need, public files, and then a source folder like this, git ignore, and everything you are needed. So, but if you are to create it one by one, you have to be adding everything like this one by one, which is actually a long, like a really long, sorry about the break. Yeah, like it's going to be a really long process to create each of them one by one. So all you have to do is just run npx create React app, then your app name, and then it creates all of them for you. Then after you create that, you want to install Firebase, which we saw in our Firebase. Let me go back to it here. So we saw it here, which is npm install Firebase, to install Firebase in our application. So the next thing after that, when that runs is to install our Firebase. And then if you see what I wrote here, I wrote npm install Firebase, React router DOM, and React Firebase hooks. And React Firebase hooks. So like when you are using npm to install, you are given the opportunity to include a lot of like apps that you want to install. So here I want to install Firebase, I want to install React router DOM, which I'll explain why I'm installing it at the end, and React Firebase hooks, which is not so important. So you may or may not install it if you want. So this is it. I just posted it in the chat here so that you can maybe copy it and then just install it after your app is created. Okay. So you can just run that while we go on to create the authentication for Firebase. So to create authentication, we just have to click on authentication, like the sidebar which says authentication. If you want Firestore database, all you have to do is go to here and then find Firestore database. If you want real-time database, go here and create real-time database. So Firestore database is like storing database in cloud. Is real-time updates and queries and automatic scaling. So it's like storing it in cloud, but real-time database is something like it automatically like stores and sync data in real time. So for cloud, it's not really real time like that because it's stored in the cloud. Like after you create your database or create whatever user or anything you want, it uploads it to this cloud, and then when you want to pull it, you have to pull it from cloud. But for real time, it is like getting and like in real time, like and hosting. But we are going to use authentication. So for authentication here, you have to do is get started. So there are different sign-in methods. We have email and password, we have Facebook, like Google Play Games, phone, anonymous, like create. So for this application, we're going to be using email and password. Using any other one is also not hard. It's almost thing. So we're going to be using email and password. So click on email and password and enable. We also give the option email passwordless sign in. Passwordless sign in. So you can enable it if you want, but for this, I don't need it. So as you can see, you can add new providers if you want. Like if you want more than one. Host, we have React Firebase and hosting. Firebase domains and use it on localhost and all these are just advanced things. So now that we have created our email, like I've created a sign-in method and all of that, so we can now start writing our code. So I don't know, has anybody's been able to like install their or create their app and then install everything that needs to be installed? Anybody? Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
sorry about that. Okay, because she said she can't hear me well.
Yeah, in
So,
between little it was broken, but now it seems to be okay.
oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Is there any year that anyone did not understand? Oh, okay. 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 She says she's able to install everything. Okay, so let's like start coding. Right. Okay. Okay. So I've installed mine here. Okay, let me clear this. So if you've been able to install everything, you have to run npm start. Okay, before npm start, you have to cd, like go into the app, whatever your app name is, and then npm start. So for example, so say I think it's here. Cool. Okay. So this is where I'm running my own. I already like set up everything. So from wherever you are, maybe wherever you installed it. So if you cd into the test app, then you can just run npm start to start up your React app. So if you start up your React app, then you should get this. You should be seeing like this particular page if you've like been able to start up your React app. So like, has anyone been able to start up their React app? Okay, okay. Thank you, Jennifer. npm start. Yeah. npm start. Okay, so for example, now if we change anything here, for example, if I change it to, okay, this is a new app, and I save, I get, it refreshes and I get, this is a new app. If I remove learn React from here, and then just save, the link is gone. So React like renders it for you. Okay, the name of the app I created. Oh, okay. Like Victoria, what's the name of the app you created? Like you can name it anything you want. Or what app exactly are you asking of? Oh, okay. What we installed? Oh, okay. So I'm going to send it again. I'm going to send it again so that you can see it. So to create your React app, it's npx create React app, then your app name. And after then you can install, npm install Firebase, install React router DOM, and then React Firebase hooks. Then you can now cd into your app name and then run npm start. So Victoria, did you get that now? All right, thank you very much. Okay, so yes. So first of all, to integrate our Firebase into our React app, we have to go back and copy our Firebase config, which we saw the other time. Okay, I can cancel this. Yeah, so in our projects, click on the settings, then project settings, and then down here, we find this here. So this is what we need, this particular settings here, configuration. So all we have to do is inside our app.js, I hope you've been able to open your app in a code editor, any code editor of your choice. I'm using VS Code, you can use Sublime, you can use Atom, any VS Code of your, any code editor of your choice. So you can, if you have opened it in your code editor, you can go to the source, your source folder, head on to your source folder and create a file called firebase.js. So firebase.js, that's what we'll name it. That's where we'll be able to like put all our configuration, our Firebase configuration. So I'm just going to paste the config I copied from there. So as you can see, they've already initialized the Firebase app, and then they're giving us Firebase configuration. Everybody's API key is like unique to them. So most times you are advised like anybody, if not like people who have to your project just by your API key, giving us project ID, all these are unique to you. Yeah, unique. By that, they've initialized the application. So we are seeing get analytics there. So remember we enabled analytics when we were starting or creating our project. So since I don't need it, I can decide to. So but what we need is authentication. What we need is authentication. And so it's the same way they like imported the, let me leave it for reference. So is our authentication. So we are going to use get auth from Firebase/auth. So if from
And now seems like we have lost you, Damilola.
so I'm just going to share my screen again. I don't know where I stopped actually.
Hi.
Um
It's good now.
Okay.
You're back.
All right. I hope you can all hear me now. Sorry about that. So I said to get authentication from Firebase, you have to import get auth from Firebase. Okay, thank you. No, they're not stored in the database, actually. So if you look at it here, Priya, so for authentication, Firebase creates like, where am I going to keep this? Firebase creates like users that use Firebase authentication. You can add a user manually with email and their password here, but that doesn't mean that you created like a Firestore database or a real-time database. So it's like authentication has its own like special storage where users who sign up or sign in like are stored. I hope you got that, Priya. Okay. Did you get that? Like, the authentication in the Firebase is not stored in the database. Like, it's not stored in Firebase real-time database or Firestore database. Like, there's another storage where Firebase stores users that are being authenticated. Don't know. I hope you got that. I just hope you got that. Okay, so okay, so I'm going to go back to this here. So import get authentication, get auth from Firebase auth. So to initialize or authentication, so we are going to just anything, you can name it auth or authentication, constant auth equals to get auth, and then the app that is being initialized. Yeah. So this is how we like initialize our Firebase authentication and app into our React app. All we have to do now is just call authentication in whatever page or wherever we need it. So if it's database, all we have to do is just constant database and then equals to maybe get Firestore and then the app in bracket the application. Then we can call the database in any place that we need it. So I don't know, are we, and then finally, we actually have to export it. So we have to export it. You have to export it so that we'll be able to call it. Because if you don't export it, you won't be able to like have access to it. So I hope we understand what I just explained, or like we are all on the same page here. So since I don't need analytics, I'm going to remove it. So if you need it, you can add it for any of your applications. So now that we have integrated Firebase into our React app, now we'll start like creating our forms for our authentication app. So inside the source folder, I'm going to create a folder called components. So inside components, I'm going to create two files, one which is login.js, can also be .jsx if you like, but I'm using .js. And then we also have registration.js. So we have the login and we have the registration. So for Firebase to be able to like for you to be able to use authentication in Firebase, the user has to register, and then before the user can actually log in, except you are using special providers. So you see that we have different sign-in methods here. So for these native providers, the user has to actually provide their email and password, first of all, before they can actually sign in. So if I add a user here, then the user is automatically like authenticated, and I can now like give the user access to sign in. But if I don't want to add my user from here, from this interface, I have to create like a registration form for the users. So which is what we are going to do. So we're just going to create like a basic form so that we would not like take